Welcome to the Strategy Sherpa Show, a series of organic discussions between hosts David Chavez and a variety of notable business leaders centered around their most significant failures and how they handled those challenges, so listeners can learn from their most teachable moments and apply the lessons to their organizations. Now, here's your host, David Chavez.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I wanted to just remind you real quick of why we do this show. We do this show so we can help other business owners out there realize that mistakes are part of the game of playing the business. Or did I say that correctly, Lewis? I don't think I said that correctly.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that everybody understands what I'm saying. So it's to understand that mistakes are part of your business and that we learn from our mistakes. And everyone, I'll introduce Lewis in just a second because you're looking at one of the CEOs, probably one of the humblest CEOs, but also had to reinvent his business a couple of different times since he's been around. So we'll talk about that in just a second. But I wanted to remind everybody of our webinars. We have really strong showing. I think we only have 5 seats left out of 200 seats to how to coach your employees for top performance with Kane Pekovic. That's today, 1 o'clock Central Time to 2 o'clock. We have the Scaling Up workshop in Austin on the 28th of March. That's this month. I am actually doing that. So I'm doing it with another one of our coaches, but primarily I'll be the one who's doing that one. And then on April the 4th, Warren Sager, who I'll be on next week with me, is doing a webinar on how to improve your cash position with 7 key financial levers. So he'll be doing that between 1 and 2 p.m. on Central Time on April the 4th. So just giving you a little update. And like I said, him and Ted, one of the other coaches, will both, we'll all be here together. We'll primarily be talking about strategy inside of companies next week. And then the week after, I have a special guest, an author, a fellow veteran, actually, Noah Johnson, and he's going to be doing Good Enough is the name of his book, and I'm going to be reading that before we jump on the radio show with him. It's a veteran's lesson from the private sector, and what he's doing is talking a little bit about the differences between being a veteran and coming into the world of business. So it should be an interesting conversation with him, and so we'll look forward to having everybody join us for that. But let's get on to Lewis, because Lewis and I have known each other, gosh, Lewis, I want to say probably about 15, 20 years now. So
yeah, at least. Yeah.
probably going on 20 years. It's probably 20 years, actually, right around there. So I think we met in the early 2000s. And Lewis, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, and then we'll get a little bit about you, just so we can learn a little bit about you and your business. So.
Okay, well, I'm CEO of Kovet Hospitality. I actually started the company out of this office here 11 years ago, come May. And we manufacture furniture. I have contracts with Hilton, and we manufacture everything on the Hampton, True, and the Homewood Suites programs. So everything in the guest rooms, restaurants, and public areas we manufacture. But we also do work for hotels like MGM in Vegas, Caesars. We do a lot of Marriott work, Hyatt, so Wyndham work. And we manufacture, our corporate offices are in San Diego, and our manufacturing facilities are right across the border in Tijuana, Mexico.
Okay. And so you're manufacturing furniture for the hotels then, really?
Correct. Yes.
Any type of hospitality entity?
Yeah, exactly. We do some hospitals sometimes, but it's mostly hotels that we do.
Okay. All right.
And senior living, I'm sorry.
What's that now?
And senior living. We actually got into that market a couple of years ago, and that's actually it's a growing segment.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's for next probably 10 years, 10, 15 years, it's going to be a boomer. So it's a good place to go. So, so listen, when we met, you had a different business.
Yes, I was working with my brother, and we were actually in a similar business. We were working for hotels, and his business was taken over. Sold his business back in 12. I stayed on with the new ownership, but it wasn't a good fit. It just so I stepped down, and I was actually had worked for Morgan Stanley before that as a stockbroker, and was going to go back into that. And my wife said, "Hey, you know what? You know a lot of people. Why not? Try to start your own business. If it works out, it does, and if it doesn't, well, at least you can't look back and say, coulda, woulda, shoulda." And so I did it, and here we are today.
Yeah, one of the things I've always admired about you is how supportive your wife has been in your business too. That's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been great for you, right?
She's awesome. She's my confidant, and I go to her on a lot
Yeah.
of those lonely nights when you, as a CEO, or you cry yourself to sleep, and you hit a wall. But she's there to cheer me on and let me know that it's going to be all right, and I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah, I like how you said cry yourself to sleep, because I think all of us have been there at one point or
Oh, yeah.
another. Not
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
not literally, but we've sure felt that way.
They won't admit it, but yeah, we do it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what we do on the show is we talk a little bit about a challenge that you've had. And because I think that all of us think our decisions are the greatest decision in the world when we make them. And then about 6 months later, we're in some kind of hell, or we're in some kind of weird spot. And we're thinking back about our decisions, and we're going, that wasn't a good decision. Why don't you share yours with the audience?
Well, when back when the pandemic hit in 2020, it seems like everybody, at least in the hospital, well, everyone, but especially in the hospitality industry, put the skids on any remodels because no one was traveling, no one was getting on planes, there was no business travel, and so I needed to figure out a way to keep our business going. And I knew, I mean, I've been through this stuff before, right? Not through a pandemic, but I know that things come and go. And so I knew at some point this would all blow over, and I needed to find a way to keep my employees, because when it did blow over, I wanted to make sure that I had those talented people. VP of sales who used to work for us, he was into fitness, and he said, "Well, the gyms are closing down. There's no place for people to go work out. Why don't we develop a bench?" And we developed the bench, and actually within 3 days we designed it. We built the website on the fourth day, and the fifth day we actually had sales. It was the craziest thing. And it actually worked well because it brought in needed cash flow to the business to keep us going, to maintain people while the pandemic was going. And our competitive edge was that all of these companies that were bringing stuff in from China were stuck. They were backed up. With shipping was going crazy. The factories couldn't ship because of COVID, and we were manufacturing right in COVID, so we could manufacture it, fulfill it, and ship it ourselves. And so we were, from order to shipment, we were anywhere between 1 to 3 days.
Oh,
And
wow.
that business scaled in less than a year. We went from 0 to 8 million in
Just
less than
selling
a year.
workout benches?
Just selling workout benches.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Wow, what a great story. So you guys had to pivot. Well, I'm sure, because your business is probably a lot bigger than that. I mean, but it was better than zero.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally didn't expect that. Like, it literally just took off running, and it was a good ride. But I always knew that it was going to be temporary, right? I knew that it wasn't going to last. I knew that things would eventually come back, and I knew that people would come back to gyms.
Yeah. So we talk about, so you had to reinvent your business during COVID. I mean, because you were one of the businesses that really were sort of wiped out by COVID,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the hotel
Oh,
industry was killed by COVID.
oh, we were hit hard. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, how long did it take you to get the bench idea from the time like President Trump came on the TV and said, "Hey, we're shutting down for a few weeks"? How long did it take you to get the bench going?
Literally, like I said, a week. It was just out of desperation. We had to come up with an idea. So we were like, we started just throwing ideas around, and um, my partner, who is VP of sales, said, let's try this. And I was like, all right, let's try it. If it works, I'm gonna assign X amount to it. if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, we shut it down. And it just started taking off. We did a lot of Instagram, and for me, it was a learning experience because we started doing a lot of social media marketing, which I had never done before in our business. And so I learned a lot from that and the way that works and algorithms and all of those things. So it was like an MBA, like a crash MBA in social media and online marketing and sales and fulfillment and all that stuff. So it was interesting.
And you're going B2C instead of B2B, right? Because you're a B2B company and now you're dealing with consumers.
Oh yeah, it was way different because in my business now, we've got an average of, I don't know, 8 weeks lead time when we manufacture something. In B2C, it was literally a day or two. And if their stuff's not shipping or they're not getting it, people are screaming, they're posting things on social media. So yeah, it's a whole different animal.
Yeah. And so you have to be very consistent when you're dealing with consumers. They're very finicky.
Exactly.
All right.
Oh,
So you did that. Now, you started this business. When you started this business, you were working with your brother for quite a while, because I think that's when I met you, and you were running that business. And you guys had made some decisions in that business that hurt that business too a little bit. Do you recall any of those things that you guys did that was not so great?
I mean, we grew a little too fast. I mean,
What do you mean by too fast?
We weren't the business, we brought in more sales than we had capacity to manufacture, and that hurt us. It hurts your credibility when you can't fulfill, especially with these hotels that have hard dates, right? That they have to turn over rooms because they've got them rented for guests. And so, we ran into some trouble where we overcommitted ourselves as a company, and maybe took on projects that we shouldn't have in terms of things we didn't build, but because, when things started slowing down, we started agreeing to get into things that we didn't know how to do, and it hurt the business.
Yeah. So you guys were basically, you were doing such a good job, and your brother is a pretty incredible salesperson too.
Oh yeah, the best.
I would probably put him in the top 5% of the people I've ever met. So, so he's an incredible salesperson. So you guys were out there, you're making quality furniture because you getting a lot of accounts because of the quality of the work that you guys did too, right?
Yeah.
So people just kept on coming to you with more and more opportunity.
And we begin to diversify and say, it's like we kept saying yes, and we didn't say no, and that ultimately hurt the business because it took our focus away from what we really were good at. And so we spent so much time trying to figure out all these things that we got into that we shouldn't have, that it took the focus away from what we were good at, and ultimately really hurt the business.
Yeah. So for the audience, and especially those of you who've listened to me for a while, with entrepreneurs, I've talked about this before. Squirrel chasing will get you in trouble sometimes, right? I think you're laughing a little bit, Lewis, there. So it'll get you in trouble.
In a lot of trouble.
Yeah, but it's also a good thing too. So it's like, how much squirrel chasing do you do? And balance that with the reality of what I can actually deliver to my customer. And that's the part that was a little disconnected for all this. So Lewis, we're going to head on to a break. And so after the break, we'll talk a little bit more. But I wanted to remind everybody about the webinar today. We have about 5 spots left. Get on assuredstrategy.com/events. It's from 1 to 2 Central Time. And if you're interested, fill those last 5 seats that are out there. And if they're filled already, take a look at the rest of the webinars. We have several of them all year long that we're already booked. I think we're already starting to book into next year too. And we have some more coming online because as we're bringing in more and more coaches, we're putting more on there. So this is the Strategy Sherpa Show. This is David Chavez and Luis Rodriguez. We are talking a little bit about his company and some of the things he did that didn't help his business as much as it should have. We'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey, everyone. This is David Chavez. This is Strategy Sherpa Show, and I am here with Luis Rodriguez, and we're talking a little bit about his business history. And before we get started back with Luis, I wanted to show you a little app. So on here, this is called Vaunt. If you can see it right here. Vaunt is one of our clients, and what they do on this app, you can download this app on the App Store. Just look for Vaunt. And what they do is it costs $1,000 to get into this app and be a part of this app. But what they do is they post private jets that are posted or throughout the country that are going from one point to another empty. And so for $1,000, you can join any of these flights for free. So after you pay your $1,000 for 1 year. So I've already taken a couple of flights myself, and I paid $1,000. I was down in Phoenix once. I had to get to Vegas for a board meeting. I booked my Southwest flight just because it's a quick, easy flight. One of these flights came up, canceled my Southwest flight, took a private jet to Vegas. It was like I was showing up in style. So if you're interested in that, it's $1,000. And then I took another flight just for fun. But it's a fun way to experience a private jet if you're interested in it. And it's only $1,000. Really, like some of these flights, I think to fly on a private jet from Vegas to Phoenix, it's like $6,000 if you were going to book it yourself. So that would be the minimum price. So just throwing that out there. So Luis, let's get back to your company because like when I met you guys, I had met you. We are part of a group, an EO group. I was in the San Diego chapter. You were in the San Diego chapter with me. And we became friends during that time. You were a big part of your brother's business. Your brother is a selling machine. And also the quality of the furniture you guys were producing was really high at the time. It was really good. You guys started stretching yourself a little too thin because your brother just kept on selling and kept on selling. Your brother's intention wasn't to hurt the company, but the decision was, let's bring on the work, right? I was even in some meetings with you guys where I was even thinking the work was productive work too, right? We were all thinking it was. What are some of the challenges we had when we started bringing those working, like with the factories and things like that? Because you had several factories at the time. So,
well, it put a strain on the factory, put a strain on our people, put a strain obviously on our cash flow, right? Because we had to spend a lot of money on things we didn't know how to do, and we had to bring in people. We had to spend money on training. We had to hire people that we didn't, and that knew that part of the things that we were selling, and so it really took our focus away from our main focus of serving our customers and building furniture. But when we started having also when things go wrong and you start having warranties, then you've got to warranty that, and that's more cash flow, more things that are hurting your business. And for me, the lesson was just stick to what you know and continue to try to improve on that. Which I've done in my business. I've had a lot of requests for people that come to me and say, hey, I know you're doing this, but can you help me with this? You guys are in Mexico. Can you find me someone? And I go, and as tempting as it is to make a few extra bucks, I go, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. Because I've been down that road and I don't want to go back to that. But the easy thing is to say yes, right? And it sounds tempting, but the hard thing is to say no, because once you've said yes and you've got that commitment, everything that that reputation that you've built doing what you do well hurts you, because all they remember is that one thing you said yes to, that you that you couldn't come through on, and then it hurts and it'll affect your relationship with that customer forever.
Yeah, and I think that you said it really well, because you guys were doing hotels at the time too. It was a part of your business. You were doing a lot more than that. But when you're dealing with hotels and you tell them that you're going to get something done and they're going to close the hotel for 2 weeks while you're installing all the room furniture, and then you don't show up the day that you're supposed to be there, that's not a good thing for the hotel or for you, right?
I'll take that lightly. No, they don't.
And I know that was a little bit of hell you lived through for a while on that, right?
A lot of hell, not a little bit.
Yeah, because your guys' reputation was on the line, and you guys had a pretty good business. I mean, you guys were making furniture like the hotels wanted you, because you're the quality of the furniture, right?
And the good thing about our business is every 5 years, right, hotels have to remodel. So, if you do a property today and within reason everything is good quality, deliver on time, chances are you're going to get that order again come 5 years. So, it's a very relationship-based business, but at the same time, it's, quality and your word is what drives, future business.
Right. And that's pretty true in all businesses. But what were some of the impacts? Like, let's talk about some of the specifics so people can understand a little bit more. Like, let's take the factory, and like, what were some of the challenges that you had at some of the factories during that time?
Again, it was trying to maintain what we did with what we were trying to figure out how to do. And so it was, and again, the focus was just trying to get things done and make customers happy. And then it kind of gets to a point where you see time getting shorter and shorter. And at that point, you're just throwing money at the problem, just trying to solve it, paying whoever, whatever it takes just to get it done. And at that point, you've lost complete focus. At that point, you're not thinking about money. You're not thinking smart. You're just thinking, just get it done, whatever it takes. And so you're selling new business to try to cover now that business that's giving you a loss, and you're just, again, and it just becomes just
A snowball. Really. Yeah. And if I recall correctly, like, we had a lot of trouble with training people in the factories because we were hiring so many people, right?
Really fast,
I mean, and a lot of them didn't know what they were doing. They may have had experience on a different manufacturing line of furniture, but they didn't know how you guys did it. Because that was part of your secret sauce, if you will, of the way that you put furniture together and made it. And they didn't understand those things. So it took a lot of training. We had a lot of culture problems because we were bringing so many people in. The culture changed on quite a bit of the company, right?
Yeah. That was difficult because you try to maintain culture, right? But when you start growing that fast, you start to lose control, and to try to keep that culture together, to try to keep that identity, it's really difficult, especially when, and sometimes in any organization, that takes 1 or 2 people to get in there that, just they don't like the way things are done, and they start getting in people's ears, and before you know it, it kind of spreads like a cancer throughout the organization and hurts you more.
Yeah. We call that gossip. We call that gossip.
Yeah.
We all love gossip as business owners, don't we?
Yeah. Not anymore.
A lot of sarcasm there on that one. So yeah. That's the one that probably aggravates us the most, right? Why don't they just come in?
You just, and that's one thing I've always said is, hey, people start talking, right? And, oh my God, like, especially during COVID, are we gonna shut down? This is going on. And I go, listen, I've always had an open door policy. If you have any questions, just come and ask me. Don't believe what the guy sitting you is telling you, because he doesn't know. Like, he's not up here making those decisions. So if you need any answers about anything, just come and I'll tell you straight up how things are. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I think in our go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's like one of your endearing qualities. I think that even when I knew you and in the last business where you were working with your brother, that was the way you were then too. You were very open with everyone, and you were very honest with them. You would tell them if it was not good, honestly.
Yeah. And I think that goes a long way. And actually, most of those employees that worked at that factory now work for me at my factory. Because long story short is the company that took over my brother's company actually wound up going out of business. And so
did it?
I did. So a lot of those people, I went and stood in front of them one morning, and I said, hey, I've got to open, because my goal was never to have a factory. My goal was just to sit here in my little office and just kind of manage and subcontract out the work. But those people that we were contracting, we grew so fast, they started having quality problems, and they started having delivery problems, and it started affecting me. So I said, the only way that I'm going to be successful is to control and be vertically integrated. So I started my factory when they were going out of business, and I walked in front of people. I said, hey, many of you guys know me. You've always known me to be honest and be transparent. One thing I can promise you is if you come into work for Kovet, you're going to have a better life. Your family and you will have a better life than you'll ever have anywhere else, because I worry about you. I don't worry about, you're not just a number to me. And I think because of that, we still have our first employee, and we have really, especially in Mexico where there's a lot of high turnover. I think we have one of the lowest turnovers in Mexico.
Yeah, because I know that even during the time with your brother's company, one of the things that hurt you the most is the culture slipping, right? Because you and your brother had built a really good cultured company, and it started slipping pretty quickly, and that was something that really bothered you a lot.
Yeah, because you start to lose your identity, and when your culture starts to slip, people stop caring. And then it doesn't, and it's reflective in everything that you ship, right? And people see that, and it's, and for me, it's always been to try to really keep a stronghold on that, because once it starts, it just starts to unravel, and it's really difficult to try to get that back.
Yeah, and you're one of those leaders. I know you're one of those guys that's easy to talk to and come in and say something to. And I know because I know a lot of business owners, they'll say, yeah, my door's always open, but they're not very approachable, right? You're one of those people, you could really walk into your office and start talking to you. So
my thing is that I've always said, hey guys, I'm not the smartest guy in the room, right? So if there's something that I said or something that I did that bothered you, or something that, or something you don't think we're going in the right, or you don't think you don't agree with the decision that I made, let me know. Let's talk about it. And maybe I didn't see something. And I think that developing that kind of trust within our organization, I think, has been really key to our success, because people aren't afraid to confront me about something. And I appreciate that, because I'm not always right. And especially in Mexico, where it's kind of like a real class society, where, you can never talk to the CEO. I think having an open door policy, and because I tell, the guy that sweeps the floor needs me as much as I need him. Right. And so having that kind of culture and communication within the organization, I think, makes everybody feel like, everybody, we're in this together, we're going into battle together. And I think, there's a quote that I heard that says, we're at our best when everything else is at its worst. And I think that really exemplifies our culture and our team, because we are, that's kind of what the culture I've always wanted to build, and the team I've always wanted to build. And when I go, hey man, and I'm very open about our financials. And when we were going through COVID, and, that ride with Zeno, that company that we went from 0 to 8 million, it went from 8 million to 0, and I think, as many lessons as I've learned, the biggest lesson I learned there is trust your gut, because I along the way, I knew that it had, a shortened lifespan, but, the guy that was, that started it, that was working for me at the time, kept saying, no, you know what, we need to keep pushing. We need to keep pushing. And, I kept trusting him instead of trusting my gut. And I lost, it almost took down my business because of that. It was very, very painful. And finally I pulled the plug on it, because I just, it just, everybody, my team was going, dude, what the hell are you doing?
we're going to take a break. Everybody, this is the real deal, Lewis. You can feel this as he's talking right now. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll finish up this conversation with Lewis. Thank you, Lewis. Just 1 second.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hey everyone, this is David Chavez. We are talking to Luis Rodriguez, and I just wanted to remind you next week I have two of our strategy coaches with me. We're going to be talking about some of the common problems we see at our clients. And then we have the following week, in 2 weeks, we have Noah Johnson. He's coming to talk about his book, Meh, Good Enough. I love that. I just love the title of this book. It's a veteran's lessons from the private sector. And he's going to be talking a little bit about the transitions. And it'll be a good conversation because he's going to talk about business and things like that. But Luis, back to you. We were talking right before the break, and knowing you personally all these years and knowing how much culture was important to you, and you were talking a little bit about that prior to the break, and then you started talking about the bench company again, because you said you went from 0 to 8 million, then back to 0. And you were talking a little bit about your gut and was telling you that it's probably wearing out. You got up to 8 million, it's probably wearing out. And you said you didn't pull the trigger fast enough. Let's talk a little bit about that, because there's probably another lesson there for everyone.
Well, I mean, my lesson there was trust my gut, because my gut, I mean, for the most part, my gut's always been right. And even from the beginning, I knew it was a temporary solution. And when hospitality started to pick it back up, I started to see, the Zeno bench, starting to slow down. But it was because people were traveling and people were going out, people weren't staying home. And my partner in the business at that time, just continued. He went all in, and he says, you know what, this is a great business, and it's people will come back, and the media was still, selling gloom and doom, but I saw the bigger picture, and I thought, you know what, things will get back to normal. But I didn't pull the trigger fast enough, and it eventually it hurt my business to the point where it almost killed my business. So here I was, struggling to save two businesses, right? And it was, I mean, it was very taxing on me, emotionally. It was very taxing on me. It was just, physically, it just, I was working at one point 20-hour days, trying to figure out things. And as a business owner, it's tough, because my employees, stuck through it. They fought through it, and they believed in me, and we're back to where, right, pre-COVID levels right now in terms of sales and where we're doing. But yeah, that was a tough lesson to learn, is not knowing when to pull the trigger, like to just put something to bed, but not doing it. And
So like, at what point did you start to know, like, what, so you take this business, it starts to grow, it's growing. Your guy that came up with the idea of the bench, because he was a workout guy, right? He came up with the idea. He wanted to keep on going. You were sort of feeling it was like running its course, right? Because the supply chain started to catch up a little bit. So competition was coming back into play that it wasn't in play before. Now all those things are starting to happen. And you guys weren't experts at the B2C side of the world, so I'm sure you had some reviews that weren't great for some mistakes you guys had made, and you were starting to feel that. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, completely.
So what were the feelings that you were having? Like if you could share to the audience, like what type of things were you thinking about at that time?
It was just a distraction. I just felt like I saw that. I mean, we were losing money, right? With every bench, we were losing money because, the majority of the money was going to Facebook, right? For Instagram ads and Facebook ads. And so, we were selling benches, and the only one making money, it's like I kept saying, the only one making money is Facebook. We're not making money. And it just continued to compound. But I continued to be sold on the fact that we gotta hold on, things are going to pick up. But I knew deep in my heart it wasn't. But I kept trusting the process. And I think that, looking back, I should have, and I had my people around me saying, dude, what are you doing? Like, why are you letting this go? Like, and I just, I kept trusting the process because I was being told to trust the process. But, it all, like I said, it ultimately almost took me out of business completely. And
Okay,
so,
and so your overarching lesson is when the little voice inside of you is telling you something, pay attention at least a little bit better than I did. Is that a fair comment?
yeah, I pay a lot more attention than I did. So, because I knew, and the thing is, I knew what had to be done. Like I knew I had to pull the plug. I just wouldn't do it. Right.
Right.
And then part of me was scared to do it. Part of me was hopeful that, you know what, maybe things would turn around. But, you know, my gut just told me it's not going to, the sooner you do this, you know, the sooner you kill this off. And again, it was good for what it was during that time. But, you know, the right thing would have to just been to cut it and then just get back to business with Covet.
So
But,
what was the
you know,
time when you cut it? What did you do to finally go, this is it?
well, the thing is that we were shipping, sales were coming in, right? So Covet became a client of Zeno. Sales were coming in, and Zeno, Covet was making benches and shipping them for Zeno, and Zeno was paying Facebook and everything else, but wasn't paying Covet. And so obviously, I had a very large receivable on our you know, that was uncollected that just kept growing, and it just got to the point where I just said, you know, I can't do this anymore, and I just cut it. You know,
Yeah.
and because I couldn't afford to carry that business anymore. And that's basically what was going on is my business now was carrying that business, and my sales and everything that was coming in was going to help, you know, support that
You-
business, which was just
Did you
imploding.
recover any of that money?
No, no, I
No.
lost
Okay. So
almost $2 million,
yeah. How much?
almost $2 million.
Oh yeah. It's a
Yeah, so
valuable,
it wasn't like a little loss; it was a big loss.
right.
Um,
Right. Valuable
yeah,
lessons. So like right now you're telling everyone about a $2 million problem. And
yeah,
not only a $2 million problem, probably about 6 months to a year of just heavy stress.
yeah. Oh my
Right.
God, yeah, it was bad.
So
It was a lot of.
because you didn't trust your gut.
Yeah, I kept going against the grain and I kept thinking, okay, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and let's see if this is going to turn around. Let's see. But it didn't, it did exactly what I thought it was going to do. And because of that now, I think, you know, um, I think for me, another lesson, you know, I realized that when, when our business seems to do well is when in my mind I'm fearless, right? When I'm not afraid to make decisions where I feel like I have nothing to lose. But I feel like when we start to slow down, when we start to to not do so well is when I become fearful. You know, and during that time, because of, you know, the financial strain, because I became fearful, I became very fearful that, you know, what if I lose everything? What about my family? What about this? What about that? And because of that, you stop making decisions, you start procrastinating, I started to do all of those things, which continued to hurt me more. And you know, about 6 to 8 months ago, I said, you know what, I was hurting a lot of my relationships on Covet side, right? Because cash flow was causing me to, you know, pay vendors late. It was causing me to deliver late. It started to really affect my business. And so I said, you know what, I've got to go back to being fearless. I've got to go back to that mindset where, you know, I wasn't scared anymore. And it wasn't easy getting there, right? But I got back in that mindset, and, you know, and you know, kudos to my team for sticking by me and supporting me and pushing me. And you know, I was really able to get back in that mindset and really start steering the ship again and start saying, hey, we need to cut this, we need to do this, we need to move here, I need to call this customer, I need to, you know, do all of those things. And you know, the inside little voice of me was, you know, screaming at me not to do it. But I, you know, again, I was trusting my gut and saying, you know what, I got to do what I got to do to save this business. And, and, you know, and we've had record sales now for the last five years. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, 5 6 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That and that's great. And you have record sales that you can actually deliver on.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not gonna sell anything that you can't deliver on. I already know
No,
you learned that lesson a long time
yeah. And
ago.
it goes back to, again, my focus. And again, this is kind of a little bit of what happened in my brother's businesses. You know, I lost focus. We started focusing on things that we didn't do, you know, we could do well, but we didn't have control over. And it ultimately killed my business. And, you know, up until that point, you know, I was very proud of the fact that I was able to build this business. You know, I started on a shoestring, didn't have any debt, you know, and we have, you know, incurred a lot of debt because of that. But I'm working my way through it right now. I'm paying down a lot of that debt really quickly. my goal is to get back down to zero debt, by the end of this year. And we're working towards that right now. But again, it's my mindset. And I think, I think not enough is said about the, the mental strain that business owners went through during COVID, because it was the news every day. It was like, you've got to shut down, this, that, you can't do that. And then you had the elections going on. Like, there was so much going on. And then you have to worry about business and cash flow and people working out of their homes and accounting departments not being able to pay you because, they only cut checks on certain days, but nobody's there. And it was a lot going on, man. And so, I think that, those people, a lot of businesses, unfortunately, didn't make it, but those businesses that survived during that time, and it was, those are strong people, because it wasn't an easy. It's like, it seems like you had everything working against you, everything.
Yeah,
and a lot of times it just,
I'm really happy you talked about the F word, because you brought it up in the middle of everything, and the F word and it's a 4-letter F word. It's fear, right? I think fear affects business owners far more than they want to admit to themselves. Whenever I'm not doing something, the first question, I think you're saying the same thing that I say a lot of times to myself. When I'm not doing something or I'm not acting on something, I ask me, what is the fear in me? What is stopping me? Because I think a lot of people think as fear is you cowering down in the corner and shivering, being afraid of something, but fear affects us in many different ways, right? And I think knowing what I know about fear now is really important to me as a business owner, because I'm not letting my fear control me. And I think that that's what you said when it came out of the benches. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, you hit it on the head.
You got out of your fear state because you knew it wasn't working. You started making the decisions and doing the work that you knew you needed to do all along, that you are paralyzed from fear.
Yeah. And I felt there was a point where I felt hopeless. I felt like I had dug myself in such a deep hole. Like, there was no coming out of this. Like, there's no way I'm going to survive this. And a lot of that was the fear just telling me you're done. Like, you're, and all of a sudden I went into the mode, well, all right, well, how is this all going to play out? Like, how am I going to wind down this business? And then I thought, no, man, I can't. I didn't come this far to come this far. And, I just started to, I started, just pushing forward and trying to push
through it one day at a time, right? Taking it one day at a time.
One day at a time, man. It's not easy, but it's it's like, I heard a thing where you plant little seed. Everything that you do, you plant little seeds today, and you start to see the fruits of it in 4 to 6 months. And I think that back in about June, July, when I started manning up, when I started making those tough decisions and trusting my gut, I think that the success that we've had over the few months is directly correlated, right, to those decisions that I started making, and trying not to be fearful, and being fearless. And I remind myself of that every morning as I wake up, and I remind myself to be fearless, because I'm not good when I'm fearful. I stop. I don't make decisions. I don't do it. I just wait till tomorrow and wait, and then.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're talking about this, and I think that you gave the audience a lot of value, and I really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing your wisdom with us, because I know you're a really humble guy, but at the same time, you have a lot of wisdom, and you shared it with us this morning, and I really appreciate you coming on and doing that with us. And because I think you helped a lot of business owners who struggle with some of the same things you do. And it's really hard for younger people to talk about this, but if we get them to talk about it and get them to own some of this, maybe they can even do better in their businesses than we ever did, right? And so I really appreciate you giving back to the community and helping me today with explaining a little bit about your business and what you did. And I look forward to our continued friendship, and thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate that. Thank you for having me on, Dave. It was awesome.
All right, this is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Welcome back to the Strategy Sherpa Show with David Chavez. Have a question for David or his guests? Join us on the show at 866-472-5790. That's 866-472-5790. Now, back to the show.
Hello, everybody. We're back on the Strategy Sherpa Show, and man, were we lucky today. Lewis, I've known Lewis for a long time, and I knew he would be a great guest. He's a little quiet of a guy. He's very humble. You would never know he's a business owner if you met him at the grocery store. His company is fairly large too. He's probably very humble about that also. It's a pretty large company. And he acts like it's really small, like it's a little small mom and pop business. It's not. He has hundreds of employees, and he services quite a few hotels out there. But he talked about some things that were really important. So one, the first thing, I think the first lesson we got out of him was be careful how much you're selling and what you're selling. I think that squirrel chasing is part of being an entrepreneur, but scaling your company, squirrel chasing can be very damaging. And I think he gave a very good explanation of that. His brother is an amazing guy, and it ended up costing him his business because he sold too much, because he took advantage of all the opportunities instead of taking advantage of the right opportunities that came along. And I know his brother's doing well today, so he's still doing well, and he's working with another company. He's done very well, doing what he loves to do. And then for Lewis, and just watching him with the start of Kovet now and how he's doing with it. And then he talked about really important thing called fear. Oftentimes when I'm not doing something in my business, I ask myself, what's the fear? I think he does the same thing, because he talked a little bit about it right at the end there, where I think he was off the air at the time he told me that what happened with the bench company was he went on and they were offered, I think it was about 100 million for the company to somebody to buy it. They turned it down because they thought it would be worth a lot more, and it ended up going out of business altogether, because he was listening from somebody who was all jacked up. This was their first time doing business, and he listened to them and trusted them, even though he knew that they had ran their course at the time. So very interesting how he said that. And he knew in his gut that it wasn't going to last much longer, but he didn't trust his gut. And that cost him. And then that affected him in his business now and caused him a lot of fear, where he wasn't doing some of the things he needed to be doing. So double whammy there, and a little bit of hard lessons that he learned. But as he learns, he just becomes a better and better business person. And he did survive it. How did he survive it? He even said it, one day at a time. He just took it one day at a time. He came in and started doing the things he needed to do, and it really paid off for him. So just summarizing this show, a very valuable show for those of you who are listening out there, and a lot of valuable information. And I think Lewis really came through in sharing his feelings about culture and how he treats his people and how he listens to them and how he doesn't always make the right decisions and how he's not always right with every decision he makes, and he's trying to get counsel from his people and trying to understand their points of view. And I think that was very valuable. Just a couple of things before we end the show today. So I'm very excited about the webinar today with how to coach your employees for top performance. We're going to be talking a little bit about coaching of people. Have about 200 people there coming to that webinar today. Then we have the Scaling Up workshop. We have some seats available. This is a smaller workshop. These workshops, we don't let them get real big, but we've maxed out about 20. We probably have about 4 seats left at this point. So if you're interested in really learning about what we do and how we help people, and again, we're not just coming in and talking at you. This is an actual workshop where you actually work on your own business, and you'll start to discover some of the questions we ask clients when we work with them. And we will be teaching you the Scaling Up model. We'll be talking about people, strategy, execution, and cash. Lewis talked a little bit about cash, and I loved how he did it. He said he's trying to get rid of all his debt from all that COVID stuff this year, because Lewis had learned when his brother came around, that debt in a business causes you to not have a strategy, and he wants to get back onto his strategy, so he has to get rid of the rest of his debt, because debt burdens you and ties you down to things that you may not be wanting to do. And we're not talking about strategic debt, because I know some of my friends who help people acquire debt criticize me when I talk about this a little bit, but I'm not talking about strategic debt. If I have a return on my investment that could be higher, then borrowing the money could be a good idea. But at the same time, using money blindly, credit line or something like that, is not good debt. That's mismanaged debt. Anytime you're drawing into your credit line, you should be thinking that way. Next one is the next webinar that we have is on April 4th. That's this 7 simple key financial levers. Warren will be doing that, and Warren will be with me next week with Ted Servata, and we'll be talking about some of the common problems we see at clients and how we help them overcome some of those issues. And so it'll be a great show and a lot of great learning in there. And then the following week we'll have Noah Johnson. Man, Good Enough is his name of his book, and I love even saying that. And we'll have him on, and we'll be talking to a little bit about the military and that transition that he made and into the private sector. So that'll be a very good opportunity for us to hear a little bit from a veteran. This is the Strategy Sherpa Show, and I appreciate you joining us today, and we'll look forward to hearing from you in the past. And thank you very much for joining us. Have a great day.